Hello my YouTube lovelies, and welcome to this episode, You Can't Judge a Book by Its Cover. This is going to be quite a short episode because A, there's not a huge amount of B-roll with regards to the build, B, because it's actually quite a small piece of furniture, so we'll just crack on and see how well I can pad this out. If you're new to this channel, it would be really good for you to subscribe, and if you like the content, give us a thumbs up. If you don't like the content, give us a thumbs down. I don't give a shit. If you'd like to start some sort of dialogue, yeah, just type a comment and everything, and I'll try and get back to you and answer any of your questions. So why bookshelf, I hear you ask, or do you ask? I don't know. The purpose of it, believe it or not, was never intended to be a bookshelf. Going back through my book and looking at all of the various drawings and sketches that I had, the idea of the bookshelf was actually really a room divider. That's its purpose. I have pictures where I thought of an idea of having trellis, so the sort of trellis work that you can buy from garden centres, and to sort of cut that out and put it at intervals down the length of the van, just to sort of break up the space. And I then thought, well, maybe I'll do some kind of design and sort of some embellishment on a piece of timber and screw it to the side or what have not. So I came up with all kinds of ideas of just sort of breaking up the length of the van, and the more I thought about it, the bookshelf seemed to be kind of the more obvious thing to do. When planning vans, I've always noticed that sometimes you have these incredible ideas. You know, there are all sorts of ideas that I had about this van, but a lot of those things were just knocked on the head the moment that I had the van and started to sort of clear it out and see what space I actually had left. So you can come up with these amazing ideas, wonderful plans, but quite a lot of the time you end up just knocking them on the head. But this particular thing, it was one of those things that kind of stuck with me for quite a while. So the building of the kitchen, the end of the kitchen or dresser unit, the upright there actually sits right in front of the wheel arch on the left hand side. So the wheel arches in the van kind of are a natural divide between what is the front half, the sort of the living area, and the back half, which is the sort of the bedroom, and then the sort of like utility area with the garage, etc. So where the dresser ends, it seemed kind of obvious to do something on the opposite side to that. So where the bed finishes, the front of the wheel arch then protrudes the edge of the front fascia of the bed by another sort of, I don't know, 15-20 centimeters. So there needed to be something within that space. I had originally thought that maybe some kind of wardrobe or a cupboard would go there, but the space was too small, so the bookshelf was the perfect solution. The bookshelf had to be then something that was practical, but it also had to be kind of in keeping with everything else. Because I'd chosen the grain and the particular style of timber, it seemed an obvious thing to do was to just carry on that same theme. So I came up with the design that I've got on there now. It really is very, very simple. It's just a 9mm ply. The shelves were cut to a particular width, and then I cut the uprights. There's a slight angle on the top upright, the one closest to the wall, because I had to sort of future-proof, knowing that at some point there needed to be, I don't know, something there between where the wall and the ceiling finished. So I sort of put in a small angle. That angle in a later episode I have to actually recut that angle once I put the light boxes in here. So there had to be some sort of guesswork with regards to how that angle was going to be, and yeah, cut the 4 uprights and then put the shelves together. So in order to put them together, I came up with the idea of putting a front lip and a back lip on it. So that little front lip is there to basically prevent books from falling off the shelves in transit, but it has a dual purpose. So it's not only preventing them from falling off, etc., but it's also giving me a means to be able to screw the actual shelf to the upright. Because I'm only dealing with 9mm, what I've done is I've glued this fascia to the shelf itself and pinned it with a nail gun, and then I've screwed the shelf to the uprights. So where I have that 9mm ply connected to another piece of 9mm ply, I think I've put in like a 1/16 screw or something like that. So a very small screw, but with that 2 pieces of 9mm, which is what, now 18mm, that gives me enough depth to put a screw in and for it to actually take and hold. So that's kind of the reason why I'd put that sort of fascia on the front and the back. I left the front open because I deliberately wanted that sort of open feel to it. Again, they're all rounded off, so there's no corners on here, etc. So I wanted to keep that theme with the sort of circles and curves that are in the van. And that was about it. The actual building, I had to sort of bring the shelf in and out a few times because the length of the shelves changes with regards to the curvature of the wall of the van. So I'm constantly bringing it in, putting in a shelf, measuring, marking, cutting it, etc., in order to try and keep this front edge here uniform and all the curves to be within the same alignment of each other. So that was a little bit fiddly, just going backwards and forwards with that. But apart from that, it was a fairly sort of straightforward build. It's not the most sturdiest of things, but it is secured with pin hinges to the top. I think I've screwed it to the bed as well, and then there are pin hinges at the bottom where it's actually secured to the wheel arch. So, you know, as a piece, it's sort of, you know, it's fairly rigid. There's no movement in there at all. Later on, what I've done is I've then put these sort of bungee cords around, so you can see like the black straps that go across there. That was just an extra sort of form of protecting books from falling off, etc. And also because the front end is open, then that bungee basically carries on all the way around, just to sort of stop books from falling off. And carrying books, you might think, then actually then does create quite a bit of weight, and it does. But there's only 3 shelves worth of books, and the books I can sort of rotate and change around. So it's not like I'm buying books and just keep stacking more and more books. I will go through it and then decide, right, I've read those books, take those out, and then I'll swap them and buy some new books. They're books that I like to sort of, I don't know, big books that I've never read, stories that I've wanted to read. There are books on there that I still haven't read, sort of thing, so they're just there for the rainy days or the days when there's no power, etc. The other shelves towards the bottom just hold maps and various folders for the van, and then I've got my camera bag and camera equipment, and then further down they have sort of shoes and trainers and stuff like that. So it's sort of a bit of everything really goes on this shelf, but its function as a room divider between the living room space here and the bedroom is fantastic. I spend quite a lot of my time in this position where I actually sort of get the cushions off the sofa and I prop them up against here, so this becomes the sort of back of my armchair, and I can move my laptop around wherever I want to do my viewing from. So it's a really, really cool place. I really like the bookshelf. It gets a lot of comments from people that come in and see it and everything like that. But as I said, its main function really is to divide the living space and to make it, the living space, seem bigger to some extent, because I'm dividing it up into 2 different rooms. Okay, I think that's it for this episode. So the next one I will talk about the building of the sofa. Again, there's not a huge amount of footage for the building of the sofa, but I'll see what I can muster. I'll see what I can put together. And until then, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.